All right, what is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? We are live. Welcome back to another KC Sports Report live stream. This is the first post-game show of the 2021 NFL season. And like I said in my recap video, bear with me. I'm a little bit under the weather, so if I stop to take a drink of water or just collect my thoughts, it's because I am coughing and sneezing my brains out. So bear with me, but we'll get through it. And I wanted to use this time, and don't worry. I'm going to have Lucas Murphy. He hosts the Beat of KC. He's going to be on soon. Josh Fan, you guys all know him as well. We're going to have a post-game show with them coming up here in a minute. They are just late to the party, but I wanted to use this time right now to kind of get into some of your questions, some of your concerns. I know that I had quite a few of them after this exciting game. I mean, the Chiefs won 33-29. But it was definitely a game that left me a little bit concerned. So with that being said, guys, I do appreciate everybody for watching. Hit that like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Chiefs content's coming out here very frequently right now. We got, I want to say, 3 or 4 videos out this week. And my goal is to get at least 2 or 3 more, but we will for sure get next week's preview out and all that great stuff once that week comes about. So with that being said, follow the show on our social medias. That's at KC Sports Report on Twitter, KC_Sports Report on Instagram. I was very active on Twitter today. It's funny. Twitter's a place that I think could be very useful for Chiefs fans, but I also think that Twitter is a place where people just overreact, and it's not really good for anything because, Twitter was up in a frenzy today during the first half of that game. You couldn't almost go a play or two without somebody was complaining. Somebody was upset about how the Chiefs were playing. And honestly, I get that. The first half wasn't really all that good from a Chiefs fan's perspective. The defense wasn't good at all. Yeah. Josh was freaking out a little bit on Twitter. I'm looking forward to getting him into the live stream to get his further thoughts on it, because I'm really curious to know what Chiefs fans think, because I personally, it was week 1 of the season. It was week 1. It was a bad performance by the defense in the first half, but I think that I kind of came into this game with the realization that it was entirely possible that this defense was going to suck. And for the first 3 quarters, they were doing everything that I thought that they could. But the fourth quarter was different. They looked good in the fourth quarter. I would go as far to say that if it wasn't for the Chiefs having the fourth quarter that they did, I would not be talking to you right now as enthusiastic as I am, because, the fourth quarter to me is what redeemed this game for the defense. They had 4 straight 3-and-out, or maybe it was 3 straight 3-and-outs to ice this game. And then Mike Hughes picked off Baker Mayfield to win the game. So it's just like, we saw the defense come up clutch in the fourth quarter, just not normally in the first 3 quarters. And, I'd almost like to get your thoughts on this, but I would rather see a defense come up clutch at the end of the game than have a fantastic first 3 quarters, but then choke when we really need them to be good. And honestly, I feel like that's kind of the Chiefs defense theme over the last couple of years, to be honest with you, that they're going to bend, but they're not going to break. They're going to make a lot of questionable plays and give up a lot of cheap first downs and stuff like that. But when it comes to getting in the end zone, they're going to be tough. They're going to be really tough. And I would say that in the second half, the Chiefs really clamped down on getting into the end zone, or letting the other team in the end zone, rather. They put up 22 points in the first half, which is inexcusable. That's way too many. I'm sure Spags was not happy about that whatsoever, but I keep checking the final score. They only put up a touchdown in the second half. And considering how bad this defense was in the first half, I'll take it. I think that everybody in Chiefs Kingdom should be happy with how this defense performed, at least with letting up points in the second half, because based off how the first half was going, I wouldn't have been surprised at all if the Browns put up 40, but they didn't. And I think that, getting over to the offensive side of things, I'm kind of just going through my thoughts before we get Josh and Lucas on here. I think that the offense was good in the first half, but it didn't have that Chiefs offense flair that we're used to. I mean, we've seen this Chiefs offense put up, 24 points in the blink of an eye like it's nothing. And speaking of putting up points in the blink of an eye, Patrick Mahomes, in I think it was the third quarter, maybe it was the fourth quarter, I'm getting my quarters confused, made one of the greatest touchdown throws of his career. He was ranging to his right, crossbody throw with defenders in his face, hits Tyreek Hill. He gets shoved to the ground. He ends up on the Browns sideline. Maybe it was the Browns, maybe it was the Chiefs sideline, but he ends up getting shoved into the sideline, somehow completes the throw to Tyreek Hill, who takes it 75 yards to the house. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, honestly, that was one of the few plays today that made me leave my feet, because it's just like Patrick Mahomes, yet again, when the Chiefs need a play, they need one desperately. Who do they go to? Tyreek Hill. Who completes it? Patrick Mahomes. It's just like we've seen this story too many times. It's almost like every game those two bail us out. But again, I will get to your comments because I do want to hear your thoughts on this, because that's what we're here for, to kind of gauge each other's opinions rather, and go over that together. Let's see. Hell of a comeback, but the defense needs to step it up. I agree. I definitely agree with that. I'm here already, and shout out to my social media. Shout out to Aaron Morrow, our chat mod. I do appreciate you stopping by. Marlene Suddington. I'm so sorry. Again, a little bit under the weather. I appreciate you being here, and I also appreciate you interacting with me on Twitter. It was a very fun day on Twitter. I kept giving updates and my thoughts, and just seeing everybody else on Twitter kind of lose their mind. It was kind of funny. Yeah, it really was. Getting Matthew, Clark, and Gabe back eventually will help, but let's not act like we haven't been terrible against the run for the past 3 or 4 seasons. That is true, IKEA Country. That is very true. We have not been good against the run, but what concerned me today is they weren't good against play action remotely. They could not pick up what Baker Mayfield was throwing down, and it seemed like it was pretty simple. It's just like I feel like today they didn't have the personnel to keep up. Travarius Ward, even L'Jarius Sneed at times today got cooked. David Njoku, the tight end, who is the receiver? Jarvis Landry cooked our DBs at times today. It was not good. But I think that honestly kind of comes down rather to how good the Browns' weapons are. They've got Kareem Hunt. They've got Nick Chubb, who, by the way, is on my fantasy team. I still lost, but Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry. Odell Beckham Jr. didn't even play today. Austin Hooper, the tight end, he had a few big catches, some big clutch catches. And David Njoku had a really good game as well. So it's just like the Browns have so many different offensive weapons that you've got to find a way to contain. And the Chiefs today, I don't think had the personnel without Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu is kind of the guy that keeps this defense together. He's the glue of the defense. So when you don't have that guy, you're going to need somebody else to step up. And besides Tyrann Mathieu, the secondary is relatively young, which is why you almost need that veteran leadership and that veteran presence that Tyrann Mathieu brings. And I was actually refreshing Twitter a lot today, and everybody's like, give Tyrann Mathieu whatever he wants. Just money is no object anymore, which I get after this game, but you got to keep in mind, we can't be giving Tyrann Mathieu $100 million. We just don't have that money. Let's see. I saw a lot of people say it was a lucky throw. That was not a lucky throw. That was purely skill. Mahomes admitted credit goes to Hill for adjusting to that under the thrown ball. Yeah, Hill had to go back to the ball, which it's good to see. Speaking of going back to the ball, you'd think Demarcus Robinson would get that down by now, but no. Demarcus Robinson is costing this team in more ways than one. He had that one catch today for 9 yards over the middle of the field, and we needed a first down. And instead of running forward, he just kind of paused. We need Demarcus Robinson to run north. Dave Tobe was talking about it. He's not a good north-south runner. I mean, I guess he's a great south runner. He runs backwards all the time. We need him to run forward, not backwards. And he costed the Chiefs a first down. And, actually going back to that, a lot of people were complaining about Andy Reid Andy Reid kicking a field goal. I think it was the first quarter on the first drive. We kicked the field goal to make it 8-3 instead of going for it. I personally liked the going for the field goal because I think at that point in the game, the Chiefs needed to get something going because, I was talking about it. the Chiefs hadn't scored. I guess they hadn't scored a touchdown until they scored, I think it was in the second quarter, since the AFC Championship game of last year. So they had quite a big drought, and I wish that they would have scored on that first possession, but I definitely didn't have any problems with Andy Reid kicking that field goal. That's just me personally, but I would understand why some people would rather see the team go for it. Let's see. I believe the defense is the problem when we're missing a key starter at all three levels of the defense. Just repeating what I said in the beginning. Yeah. And, one thing that I did say in my recap video, I like Nick Bolton. I think Nick Bolton played exceptional football today. But the problem is he's just such a young player. We need guys that can step up and be like Nick Bolton at every position on the linebacking core. Ben Neiman, even though he had a good tackle, we had one good tackle today, wasn't all that good. We need Willie Gay back. And you made a great point. We are missing a key player at each level of the defense, so to speak. We're missing Frank Clark on the line, even though some people would argue that that's not really a big loss. But I think that when you lose somebody like that, it does mean something. You're missing Willie Gay, obviously the linebacker core, and then Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu is probably the biggest loss of this team, at least right now. So we need to get him back. But I also think that, this team almost needed a game without Tyrann Mathieu. It kind of reminds me of a couple of years ago when we beat the Vikings at home without Patrick Mahomes. The team almost needed that game without Patrick Mahomes to kind of learn what they were at and how good they were, and also how to win as a team. I think today was, for the most part, I guess you could call it an offensive win, but I'm leaning more towards team win because, let's be honest. If it wasn't for the Chiefs defense stepping up in the fourth quarter, the offense doesn't get the ball back and have those opportunities to score. With that being said, guys, I'm going to bring on somebody who is at this game today, and I'm going to get him to give us his thoughts on the game. So with that being said, I welcome to the show Lucas Murphy, host the Beat of KC. What is going on, Lucas?
What's up, man? What is going on?
I expected your voice to be a little bit shaky. You were talking about how you were screaming a lot at the game, so why don't you kind of tell everybody how the game was?
Yeah, man, it was the reason why it's kind of hard to explain is because it's like one of those things you had to say you've been a part of, just because it was the home opener after a pandemic where fans weren't there in full capacity. I think the most unfortunate thing that we saw, and it just shows you the need and what you really have when you have the Honey Badger on the field. I think it does display some of the leadership that he provides, but you also had Frank Clark, who wasn't playing, and I think that was a significant role as well, because that forced a double team on Chris quite a bit.
Chris Jones still had 2 sacks, though. So.
Yeah, and that's what's incredible. And I think, too, with Willie Gay being out, that put a lot of pressure and expectations on Bolton, and I think he lived up to some of that, but we still have to understand he's a rookie, and there's a lot of growth that can be done there. But I do think there were some mistakes. Like, I'm not just trying to be negative, but, it really wasn't positive until we started to see some swings happen with the botched punt, and then the defense decided to step it up. But man, Nick Chubb and Kareem, they had their way. And
I thought that they were going to. I said that with Briscoe. I wouldn't have been surprised if each of them had 100 yards.
Yeah.
Luckily that didn't happen, but I got Nick Chubb on my fantasy team. He ate today. He really ate today.
Yeah.
But, you hit the nail on the head. I think that, I don't know if you saw any of Josh's tweets. Josh was kind of wilding on Twitter. He was
Bro.
Yeah, he
well,
to me,
like out there, you have Wi-Fi, but it's like still, 70,000 people, man. Everyone's attached to the Wi-Fi, so it was very spotty. And I'm trying to see how my fantasy team's doing, and I'm like, what is going on? But yeah, man, I didn't get to see any of his tweets.
He was very oh, this Chiefs defense is horrible, and I'm like, dude, we need to pump the brakes real quick. We're less than 30 minutes in on week 1 of the regular season. there's a lot of game and a lot of season left. And I almost just think that the reason that I was so positive in my post-game show, because I thought that fourth quarter to me was very redeeming. I thought that they lived up to what the Chiefs defense expectations have been the past couple years in the fourth quarter. Now, that's not to say that the Chiefs defense through the first three quarters wasn't terrible. I mean, they couldn't stop anything. I think that
Yeah.
it wasn't until the fourth quarter in which they forced a 3-and-out. But it was leading up until that point that, or I guess it was at that point where we kind of saw that when the game really matters and when you got to get a stop and you've got to make a play, they did that. So it's
Yeah.
just like, I feel like that's a redeeming quality. But I mean, what was that atmosphere like on those 3-and-outs and those stops?
You could definitely sense, like, they say home field advantage has kind of gone away to some aspects. And I truly think that Arrowhead got to a point today, and it was mentioned in the post game by multiple players, like Mahomes even hit on it. And he's like, that crowd was by far the most rowdiest, like craziest I've ever played in the environment. And it's like, it truly was. Like, for me, that was one of the loudest experiences I've ever had, and I've been to so many Chiefs games. It was next level, especially on those drives. And you could sense like Baker was struggling to communicate even to a center. I mean, the games have evolved where like you throw up hand signals and that indicates, things, but even him like trying to communicate, leaning in to talk to his center. And at one point he was like doing this. And I mean, it was truly next level. It was something special. And man, it was just a blast, man. It really was.
The one thing that Josh did say, and he's got to get in here so we can kind of talk about this, but the one thing that I do think he was pretty correct about, this Chiefs defensive line outside of Chris Jones was pretty bad at forcing pressure, like very bad. Like Mike Dana couldn't do it. Joshua Kando wasn't the answer. I didn't see anything from Okafor. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I'm not overly like upset about it. Only reason because, going in, we knew that this offensive line for the Browns was going to be a good one. We know that they've definitely upgraded it enough to where I would say it's an elite offensive line. My only thing going into it, and I paid attention the best I could, was I know J.C. Treader, their center, I believe, was on questionable. He showed out, played up, and did his thing.
He manhandled Chris Jones on a few plays.
Yeah,
shoved him to the ground.
And he's a really good offensive lineman, and they do have some very good offensive linemen. So, I think it was a good first game test for those guys, and without Frank Clark. And I'm not saying Frank Clark is gonna make it. I mean, you know how I even feel about Frank Clark, but he does provide a little bit where you can kind of change up how you block. And that's why I think, there was times where outside of Chris Jones, because Chris played a lot of outside. I don't,
yeah, he
the
did.
angle we had, I mean, you saw the picture, you could see a lot of everything develop. And I don't think, I can think maybe twice or three times I saw Chris line up on the inside.
I mean, I think that, obviously it worked today. He had 2 sacks. So it's just like, if that's what works, play him on the end. But at the same time, like, I don't think, and today it just appeared to me that he wasn't as good in the running game as he was in the past. I think that there was a few plays in which he just didn't really follow through, which I would have liked to seen happen. But what was your initial take on falling behind, and what was your mindset like, and what was the atmosphere like there? Because I'm not gonna lie, sitting on my couch, I was like, dude, it's 12 points. I've seen Patrick Mahomes come back from 24. This is nothing. So I was kind of like holding out hope. I didn't really put anything by a Chiefs comeback because I've seen it so many times before. But, I know how Chiefs fans are. Was there any point at the game that, it just kind of seemed like the atmosphere died down and everything wasn't really like it usually is?
I would say, we had some older gentlemen sitting behind us and been, talked to them for a little bit, and they'd been to so many games and through so many seasons, and you could sense like, we were starting to struggle a little bit, and they were like, here we go again, play some effing defense, and like, we can't tackle. And like, I had to agree with them on that because there was so many missed tackles today. When they go back and watch film, they're going to see how many missed tackles, and that truly was embarrassing. But you get a lot of that, and we really honestly incredible turnout for the Cleveland Browns fans. Like we had probably 16 of them, 4 rows in front of us, and the dog pound was definitely there, man. It barking it up, and but you could sense kind of I would say that as far as like being rowdy for the defense and rallying behind the defense, it was there the whole time. I think they got a little bit of kind of shaky when the offense kind of sputtered a little bit there. And then I think what we were down, it was like pretty early on, we were down a little bit more than a touchdown, and people were kind of freaking out a little bit around us. But, I had the same vibe. I kept saying, hey, guys, we've been here before. We're going to come back. We're fine. Just relax, relax. And,
It just happened.
the biggest thing for me, and we have to understand this, is yes, we didn't play without the Honey Badger, but they also didn't play without OBJ.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
on
true.
some of those deep balls, OBJ would have been there. So, we got to be thankful that they didn't have OBJ, and they're probably pretty thankful they didn't, we didn't play the Honey Badger. We didn't play Willie Gay, and we didn't have Frank Clark out there. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
both were scratches at the game time. Like Odell could have
Yeah.
played and Tyrann Mathieu was going to play, and then at the end of practice and warmups, they're just like, it's probably not good that you play. And honestly, I said this in my post game. I don't really even mind sitting out Tyrann. Obviously, you'd like to have that guy on the field, but if he wasn't feeling 100%, I guess you could say a 45% Tyrann Mathieu would be good enough to have out there, but at the same point, like don't aggravate something or don't get hurt, because we need you for the long haul. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You need to be able to go the long haul. And I think that Tyrann Mathieu sitting out this game just kind of ensures that he's going to be able to be healthy long term.
Well, I think also what it shows you too is the fact that he is a needed asset, and a long-term contract should be something that needs to definitely be evaluated, because Juan Thornhill got exposed when put into the main role. Sorensen couldn't fill that main role. Watts, I was okay with Watts. I think his role today was what it should be. But yeah, man, I think that the depth at the safety position is definitely something that needs to be looked at moving forward. Even like when the draft pulls up next year, like safety is a spot that I think, or even free agency, because I just think you're one injury away. We saw it without the Honey Badger, but let's say Juan goes down. That's really a big concern to me. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking to add to safety or do something with the safety spot just because of what's going on. But yeah, man, that was crazy.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that Juan Thornhill definitely had his moments today where he wasn't very good and he got beat. I don't know who is responsible for that Schwartz catch downfield. It looked like
It
a
was him.
Travarius. It was him.
Yeah, it was Thornhill.
Okay.
If you go back and
Okay.
look, I do think there was some miscommunication, but Thornhill, man, I think the thing that upset me the most about that play was he kind of stumbled and then just let up. Didn't even like
Mm.
give it 100% and let up, and that's what caused it to be such a deep pass, was the fact that he just really kind of gave it 75%. And
Yeah, you don't want to see that. That's not good.
no, no, and I'm trying to think, there was another play where he missed a tackle, like just completely whiffed, and it could have been a lot worse than what it was. So yeah, man, I think that was, for me, that was the biggest thing that got exposed, was the safety spot without the Honey Badger, because I think we were able to duct tape it through without Frank
Mhm.
and some of those guys, the linebackers. I
I
mean,
think Bolton was awesome today. What are your
you,
thoughts on him?
I liked what Bolton did. And the thing is, and I was listening to the post game with Briscoe too, and everybody was super excited, and I'm like, we kind of got to pump the brakes just a little bit, because some people's expectations are like rookie of the year, defensive
Oh
rookie,
yeah,
and I'm like,
I don't have that. I just
no,
thought
I
he
know
looked
you
good.
don't. I'm just saying there's
Yeah,
people out there that are like, yeah, this is what, and I'm like,
he's gonna be
guys,
defensive rookie of the year, guys.
yeah, and I'm like, when Willie Gay gets back, Bolton's reps are going to go back a little bit. But I
But
think
will
that,
they though? Because that's the question. Do you want Ben Neiman being that guy?
I mean, that's their guy. I mean, we saw him start over Ben Neiman today. I mean, he legitimately did. Um, but then they ran it. They ran a lot of their base package, and they had all three out there. So it was Hitchens, it was Bolton, and it was Neiman a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I think he did very well for. He had that huge tackle on the away side of Kareem Hunt out in the open. That was a very good in coverage play for a rookie linebacker on a very good running back, and that was a huge stop. And then I think there was a couple because our angle was perfect for how plays were developing, and it was like a jet sweep that kind of it was the reverse. It was the reverse,
Okay.
and he bit too much, got caught up in the line, and that just let Landry, I believe who it was, just completely blow off the side and snap off about 20 yards. So he bit into it, believed that it was an actual run, and it ended up being a reverse. And so you saw some things, but man, I was impressed. I was happy because Spags doesn't like to play a whole lot of rookies, especially. I mean, we saw it with Willie Gay. He wants them to
Yeah.
kind of learn and develop, and for him to be out there and a lot of the snaps, he did pretty well.
I feel like not Ben Neiman. I feel like Nick Bolton kind of forced Spags' hand though, because we have nobody else.
Yeah,
At this point in time, the linebacking core is so weak that you don't have another quality player that could play over Nick Bolton. That's just kind of the
yeah,
sad
yeah,
reality that we're at.
yeah,
But I also think that the secondary, even though there was times today where I was really upset with how Charvarius Ward played. I think that
hmm
honestly he had a really rough day. But I
yeah,
think that Mike Hughes kind of redeemed himself with that pick to end the game. I think that Snead made a few good plays. There was definitely times today in which I think that he got beat,
yes.
but I think that there's probably room for improvement. Obviously, there's room for improvement, but do you think that has to come from outside help, or do you think that that's just going to have to be figured out internally?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they'll figure it out internally. I mean, I believe Baker was inactive, so
Yeah.
wasn't even suited up. And then I think that this was a great test for the first game, and I think they will end up getting better because you're seeing an opponent that is trying to actually beat you,
Mhm.
where we see them all the time in like training camp and practice. They get to know the tendencies of the players that they're facing, where these guys may throw something different that and there was a couple times today where Travarius Ward couldn't have done anything else, and like Landry made some very good catches.
Oh yeah, like
And
Landry made some like all pro level catches today.
yeah, and Don, I was impressed with Peoples Jones too. And as the Browns fans were chanting DPJ, um, I think he did pretty well too but I was truly impressed with their entire receiving core. I mean, that team is going to be very good. So
Mhm.
I think it was a great test, and I do think to answer your question again, I think they'll probably stay in house and continue to get better because I think it has the capabilities of getting pretty good. I really do. Because I think if they had the Honey Badger in this game, kind of dictating and directing them a little bit better, I think it would have been just a smidge better than what it actually was, just because, maybe he can see something back there that Juan Thornhill or
Yeah.
Dan Sorensen don't really see. So,
I find it hilarious. Browns fans were just like, again, you did it again. Like, like it's just like they can't catch a break. And honestly, another big thing that I kind of took away from this game was that week one, even though obviously every game of the NFL season is important, and this game might have meant more to the Chiefs than a lot of the other ones, because who knows what kind of playoff implications this is going to have further down the line. I mean, we don't know. Maybe both these teams would go like 15-2, and that's the tiebreaker. But I almost think that this year, week 1, to me, felt like almost like a time to experiment with the players that you have, as well as just kind of work some things out. I mean, these players, they're actually trying to hit for real now. They haven't tackled anybody with the intent to hurt someone for a while now. Like, that is a learning curve that you're going to have to get used to. And usually we see the defense start to come around in week 4 or 5. But if you remember, the year that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, they didn't start performing at a good level until about week 12.
Yeah.
So it's just like everybody seemed to like jump onto the bandwagon of like, this team needs to come out and put up 50 points and beat the Browns by 2 touchdowns, when in reality, the Browns are a top 3 team in the AFC. And both of these teams are going to look drastically different the next time they meet, if they do meet, than they did in the first one. So like, what are your thoughts on kind of the learning curves and how this team played week 1?
Yeah, man, I think that that was the biggest piece for it is, I heard a lot of people complaining about the offensive line, and
that's one too.
This was honestly the first time going against, outside of the preseason, this was the first full game that they were there the whole time, seeing Jadeveon Clowney, who actually did play pretty well. Very good Myles Garrett, a Malik Jackson, who is a monster. Those guys gave him everything they had. Plus, they have a very good linebacker, Anthony Walker. Like, those linebackers were hawking.
JOK is good too.
Yeah, and so
wish we would have drafted him, but
Yeah. And so those guys were definitely, doing. I think the offensive line, like they were talking, they have to definitely learn from the mistakes. They have to continue to mesh well. And I think that's the biggest thing is, they're going to probably learn a lot from film tomorrow and see some of the things that they can improve on, because some of those guys, it's their first time playing with each other for that long stretch of a game. So,
well, 3 of them, it was their first NFL game.
Yeah. And, I just think too, like, I think some of the stuff that we were, I was trying to pay attention. We tried to run that trick play where we threw the little shovel pass to.
I hated that. Hated that.
That's the type of stuff, like we were talking with the group that I went. That's where, like, you want to kind of instill the, hey, we built this offensive line, and we go out and we get Joe Tooney, we draft Creed, we go get Orlando Brown, we got Trey Smith, and we have Lucas Niang. Like, let's build some confidence by handing the ball off and just letting Clyde try to get in. Instead, they try to do this little shuffle pass and do some of this trickery and stuff. And
remember they ran that shovel pass but they do it with Kelsey.
Yes,
he scored against the Jets last year. But the difference between Kelsey and Mike Remmers is Kelsey can catch the ball and move quickly. Yeah. Mike Remmers is, God forbid he drops the ball. Let's just say he catches the ball like he did. Once he turns around, he's going to meet a defender. It's not like he's going to have the drive to get in because he doesn't have that speed. He's got the momentum for sure because he's a big dude. But, like, realistically, Andy Reid's got to realize that that's not going to work. Like, even the play last year where Eric Fisher scored, it was a rollout play. He was all by himself.
Yep.
I could have caught that ball. Like, it's just like, I think that getting too cute in the red zone is a problem. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. And I'll wrap up that question that you asked me. But I do think there's going to be a ton of learning going on, and I do think we'll start to see them mesh and come together pretty quickly. I really do believe that. And then, I do think some of that. I like to see some of the trickery because I think it's good, but because the one that I think was needed and it would have been very interesting was the play that they were running. And I do think it was in the red zone, but that's when Tyreek jumped off. But they were about to run something absolutely insane because they had like a diamond formation in the backfield with Kelsey. Patrick Mahomes was lined up
too.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes was lined up behind like Kelsey as like a running back. And then he had Clyde and somebody else. It was, and then they did the spin thing that they did. It was going to be something nuts. But then I don't know what Tyreek did, and he
I
just
think
jumped. And
Tyreek and Pat both jumped.
yeah, and so, but I think that play was going to be something. And I was okay with that because of the down and where we were at. The Rimmers thing, I think there was a lot of pressure on that situation, at least getting the ball in the end zone. And that, to me, that just, I would have much rather tried to pump Clyde in that point than trying to do all this crazy stuff. So I do think that they do at times get a little too cute, but some of it I kind of like. So
I do like some of the fancy play calling. Like I love the jet sweeps and the reverses in the red zone. I think that Tyreek Hill is one of the most effective weapons with his speed and catching ability. Like when they
yeah,
run those jet sweeps and reverses with Hardman and Hill, no one's gonna catch them. Like we saw it last year, they were just untouchable. But the same thing goes with like last year they tried that Ferrari play and that one where
yeah.
Kelsey's got the ball and Pat's running routes. It's just like, dude. This is week 1 of the regular season. You want to do this in the playoffs when it matters,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
need something crazy. Like I just think that obviously you can do some stuff that is fancy and out of the ordinary, but like you can also run a post route and just see Kelsey do his thing. He's pretty good at catching the football. Like
I would have liked to seen them do a little bit more of that too. I mean, I know again it's week 1 and we can scrutinize a lot, but it would have been nice to see a jump ball or like let Jody go up and try to get one or um do some things like I would have loved to see Clyde try to pound one in, on the 5 or the 6, whatever it was, and just let him see if he can get it in because as we saw when we came out after halftime, we could actually run the football and we were putting the pressure on with that running, and then you started seeing lanes open up for the passing game. And I think that you probably could have, I think Clyde was running on a pretty good level today. And so I would have liked to have
he
seen that a little bit
struggled
more.
in the first half. I think
Yeah.
I think Clyde left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I do too, and I think that, I kind of wondered if Andy kind of had the executive decision at halftime to say, "Look, we're gonna try to run the football a little bit more." Maybe that was just kind of the game plan that they evaluated. But I tell you, man, the thing that impressed me the most, and I get that he had that deep bomb, but Tyreek Hill 3 yards away from having 200 yards today was incredible. Was incredible, and it just shows you how valuable he is. So I think that's crazy, man. And then Kelsey, 2 touchdowns and just doing
Almost
his thing too.
100. Almost
Yeah.
missed out
Yeah.
on that one, but
So, but yeah,
yeah.
man, it just shows you how special these guys are. And like, because we were looking at the stats, and it's like, again, after those two, besides Clyde even kind of contributing in a way, you didn't have really anything. And I think for me, that's what's most disappointing is, Pringle really didn't get a whole lot of action. DeMarcus, that ball was underthrown, and
Yeah,
Pat,
that is one thing that I think he could have maybe come back to the ball, but Mahomes, you just missed that one, dog.
yeah, and
Like,
he said it too. He's like, I make that 9 out of 10, and he's like, that was my fault. But I think DeMarcus could have got that one, and then, outside of that, man, Mecole really wasn't a factor, and we got to see No Gray out there a little bit, which was nice, but. And again, it's week 1. I think we're going to start to see more of the packages develop and get more guys out there. But we did see was it called T-Rex? What was it? Tyrannosaurus Rex.
something like that, yeah.
We saw that on the 2-point conversion. He
Didn't
had
end up
all 4
getting
tight ends out
completed,
there. Yeah. So
but honestly, that stuff, I feel like that's stuff that just comes with time. Like they will get it
yeah,
down at some point, and it's just like it's week 1, guys. Like I cannot wait to hear overreaction Monday tomorrow because people are
yeah,
gonna be like, "Oh, the Chiefs got exposed." It's just like, dude, I
bro.
think
If
the
you want to
Chiefs
see an
played a
overreaction, look at my tan line. Look at
yeah.
this thing.
You get burned today. Ooh, that's not really a tan line. That's just like a. I guess is that just your hat indentation or is that
Yeah,
actually a tan line?
I had my hat, and then I got the eyes because of my sunglasses.
Oh my gosh, you did burn.
Yeah. Yep. So I figured I'd put the hat on so I didn't embarrass myself.
Aaron with the plug. Yeah, this is actually new merch that I was able to draw up. We're working on new stuff. I'm a one-man wrecking crew. I'm trying to get EJ to get me some more designs for the season. I'm thinking like take it back shirts or something like that because I think that those would be cool. But yeah, if you want to support the show through that, by all means, go check out the store on Teespring. But guys, you just hit that subscribe button and the bell notification. Our views have been lower recently, but I kind of think that that's something that's gonna work itself out with time. And like I think that there's gonna be a lot more stuff to talk about this winter because if this is what we see every week, I mean, I thought this game was extremely entertaining, like
Yes.
extremely. And it's just like it was on brand Chiefs football. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with that too. I think, and it's tough because you know what this team truly is capable of doing when they're 100%. And for them to do what they did today, I think just speaks because you see teams like, and if I remember, Buffalo fell today, if I'm
They
correct.
did. Buffalo,
And,
dude, the Packers put up 3 points. They lost 38-3.
yes, and Rodgers threw 2 picks and no touchdowns. The Titans get shellacked by the Cardinals, which,
Kyler looked good, like
and
really
that's
good.
I was telling everybody today, that's my prediction for a Super Bowl, and people are like, "You're crazy," but I think the Cardinals versus the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, man. That's me, and I think that they have every opportunity because the thing with Kyler is it's a different game plan with him. Like edge rushers to him, he's so quick at what he does. And I know this is Chiefs, but what he did to the Titans, man, was, and they need to figure it out. Derrick Henry ran for maybe 30 yards and
Yikes.
Julio got the ball 3 times and like
Up here he is. Oh, he's backstage. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Josh Fan. What is going on, Josh?
yeah, let that guy talk a little bit. My voice is gone.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel the effects of my sickness.
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure what the plan was. Hold on. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, I just wasn't sure what I was kind of running late, and then I wasn't sure what the plan was, but decided to hop on because I saw you guys were still doing it. But yeah, that was.
Do you want to give your thoughts on the game real quick? Because me and Lucas have kind of been going at it for like 40 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I can add a new dynamic, but
no, you can for sure. Based off your Twitter, yes, you can. You very easily can.
I mean, it was a crazy
real quick
game,
before you do that, real quick, Josh. Chandler Jones, 5 sacks. Can we give a clap?
He had
for Chandler
5
Jones?
sacks today.
Yeah, 5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles.
Goodness gracious, that man!
I'll let you go.
Monster.
I'll let you go. I'll let you go. Also, hey, did you see your Missouri lineman left tackle got in for the Bears?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, except now he's out with an ankle injury. But I was excited that he got in. That's good for him because he wasn't expected to enter the draft when he did, and now he's made his way into being basically a starter for the Bears. But yeah, speaking of Mizzou guys and doing good, I'll kick off with that. Nick Bolton, he looked really good today, didn't he? He flashed. He made some plays, some critical stops, man. Love the tackling from him. I mean, the linebacker play overall wasn't great, but Nick Bolton in particular, and he did have some rough moments too, but which you'll expect from a rookie, but I thought he looked really good.
I'd agree. I would agree.
I do too. I mean, we were kind of talking about it. I think he had some rookie mistakes, but that's expected. I mean, he's not a. This is the NFL. I mean, they're professional NFL players, and I think the one play I told Michael that impressed me the most was it was like a quick dump off to Kareem Hunt, and Nick Bolton had him in coverage and stayed with him. And actually, I think, either kept him at the line or that was one of his tackles for a loss. And that kind of impressed me a lot just because of who his coverage assignment was and his ability to, stay with him. And I think he did well in some of the running stuff, but man, they gashed us pretty good with the run game. So hopefully, he can watch film and learn some things and, Yeah, because they were doing a lot of shifting on the line too. Like Hitchens was in those guys' ear nonstop. So yeah, it was. I think it was a good first game and a good first experience, and I bet he would say the same thing.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, the defense overall not great. Nick Bolton stood out. Chris Jones did pretty well. Who else in particular? Juan Thornhill, he had a good game. Everyone else though,
I think Juan Thornhill had a good game. You know, Lucas, he had some questionable moments, but let's be honest here. Juan Thornhill made some big time tackles.
Man,
the play that stood out the most from him was when he knocked the ball out of Anthony Schwartz's hands on that one stop late in the game. That was really good. I'd like to see that from him.
You know, I'm a big Thornhill advocate, but I would say today, and just me, I think this was not the best for him. I think that he can play better because we saw him play to a crazy level his first year, and I just don't think he's there quite yet. I mean, I like Juan Thornhill, I really do, but I think he's progressively coming back, and I just think there was a lot of expectations with the Honey Badger being out. And I mean, I know it's different role, like different positions, but I still just think the pressure was there.
It's fair.
Yeah,
well, I got to go to Josh's Twitter really quick. So keep talking, but I want to get some of Josh's hot takes from Twitter on the show.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll own up to all of them because I always overreact during the games on Twitter because my pessimistic mentality has helped me over the years. Because if we do good, well then I'll be happy because if I'm wrong, that means they did good. But if they do bad, then I'm right, and then I get to freak out. But
which is kind of a good mentality for sure.
Exactly. I've become more of a pessimist over the years, and that's what you get when you hang around Connor too much.
If the Browns score a TD here, I struggle to see how we win. They did score a TD. We did end up winning.
I don't remember
this
what game that was.
This game feels over.
Just that was scoring before. That was right before I think Mahomes unloaded the bomb to Tyreek Hill.
Where was the bat? There was like a take. I think maybe I said something on Twitter like, guys, just calm down. It's week 1. Like, it's going to get better. And you're just like, the defense has been like this for the past.
I will stick with that though.
Okay, I was gonna ask that.
Mostly because the defense was really bad. And yeah, it's week 1. And I kind of agree with what you said before is that you kind of give them a grace period for the first few weeks when it comes to tackling, just because like they haven't hit really, going 100% full speed in a long time. But I will say that at some point we have to see improvement from the defense instead of saying, oh, here comes the 2018 defense again. I think we find ourselves saying that so much. And 2 areas in which they looked really bad, run defense, and besides Chris Jones, they struggled to get to the quarterback today. And also, I mentioned this with Connor when I did our post-game show, which was wide receiver 2. Still questions there. And for everyone that was hoping for a McCole Hardman breakout season, it's not off to a great start. And I was just looking at the game, and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce did amazing. But again, and knock on wood, if one of them goes down, who's going to step up as a legit third receiving option on this team? And basically, I don't know. It worries me. I'll stick with what I said though, because this offseason, it's frustrating when we went in saying, hey, we need a wide receiver too. We need a defensive end. We need more pass rush. And we had plenty of opportunity to add either. There was plenty of capable free agents out there. Melvin Ingram was waiting to be signed for dirt sheet for however long. Steelers pick him up at the 11th hour. He has an amazing game today for the Steelers. Look really good. And it's like, it's really, I feel like it's just stubbornness when we don't make simple moves like that to help us out. But I mean, it is only game 1 still, though, so maybe someone else steps up. But when you see the same things continue to be issues and there was free agents there to help you, like Melvin Ingram and KJ Wright sound wonderful right now.
That's true. Now, this one is good. Chiefs really made you guys think that Mike Hughes, who was a bust for the Vikings, and Juan Thornhill, who clearly doesn't have it, were good enough to check the Browns.
And they did from that point on, from after that tweet.
It's just like, dude, we need you to tweet now every single game because it seems like they do the opposite, which is a good thing. Like, honestly, but up until that point, I don't think Mike Hughes had a great game. I don't think he was really tested though.
He was really rough in the beginning, but he did have the game-sealing pick, which will make people. It'll give people the impression he had a really good game when he got bodied a little bit. Let's be honest, especially on that first drive. But I mean, the game-sealing pick is worth something. So
for sure,
like that's a high-pressure spot, and he makes the interception to seal it. I mean that because if he doesn't, who knows what happens after that? I mean, we remember that Rams game a few years ago where Orlando Scandrick dropped the interception that would have won the game before the Rams had the go-ahead touchdown. Like, that stuff matters. Was Orlando Scandrick good that whole entire game before that? No, and the rest of the defense sucked too.
Was Orlando Scandrick good in the Kansas City Chiefs uniform? No, he wasn't.
Good night.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I always think back to that Titans game too. It's like you got to close it out, or I still don't get how we lost. I'm talking about the Titans game in 2019 during the regular season that we were in Tennessee and we were up, and then we just somehow lost the game. I don't even really understand how it happened, but just a string of bad events. And honestly, and I think, I said this, and I want to get your take on this, Josh. Like, I think this Chiefs defense was appalling bad in the first 3 quarters, but I feel like how they performed in the fourth quarter, to me, kind of redeemed the day. Like, I don't know where you fall on that, but I feel like seeing them get like 3 straight 3-and-outs and forcing a turnover and just playing, I'd say, lockdown defense in the fourth quarter, I feel like that almost kind of redeemed it for me. I don't know where you stand on that.
I mean, at the end of the day, they still gave up nearly 500 yards of total offense. I don't think we can let that slip by. But I do see what you're saying, and I do somewhat agree. And I said this to Connor, but I think something we have to consider is I don't know if we win that game without the fans. Having Arrowhead full and those fans that loud at the end of the game, that played a huge part, and that messed up the punter at the end there for the Browns. And when that whole run started for us, that was because of the fans. And I think we forget sometimes that the defense, when you had the fans that loud and supporting the team, that it helps the defense. And there was a huge momentum shift. You could feel it, and you knew the Browns, they felt it, and it had an effect on the game.
You're
What's
welcome.
Going on, Adam? I see you in the comments. But I can't come out of this game feeling like there definitely are areas that we need to improve on. Obviously, I think that we're going to get that every single week. But like that offense, I think the offense wasn't really firing on like Chiefs cylinders in the first half, but like the second half, they just looked fantastic. Like I had that mentality that
we have to remember, man, their secondary, they were missing Delpit, I'm pretty sure, but
they were.
We know going in because we talked about it. That secondary got a lot better.
Yeah.
And I mean, those veteran guys that came over from the Rams, and that you could tell Johnson and Hill provided a very good spark to that defense in the secondary. And, Tyreek even gave him credit afterwards. He's like, he could have easily deflected that ball that was I came back for, but he's like, that's the hardest play for a DB. And he's like, those guys were coming down, they were hitting me. And he's like, I was feeling it. And I think that I really do think that their secondary was providing some pretty good pressure for our receivers, and that's a big reason why too. And yeah, man, it's a good test. I really do. I think this was a perfect test to start the season off. And I think even if we would have taken an L, I think it would have been a very humbling, educational moment, because they're going to be diving into film tomorrow, and it's going to be insane. So I think tomorrow is going to be a key day for them moving forward. And, I think this was a perfect, it couldn't have gone any better. It really couldn't have.
And I think that the front four of the Browns kind of worked our offensive line. Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, even though I don't know if Clowney had a sack, maybe he had half a sack because he collided into Mahomes at one point, but he was constantly sniffing out. I think it was Clyde behind the line of scrimmage. He made some really, really good tackles. But I think that honestly, in order to get better, in order for these tackles to improve, you got to go up against guys like Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. And I think that all things considered, the offensive line, even though I think that they could have played better, I liked it. I think that with all the moving pieces you had, I think that overall they played pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like the pocket collapsed earlier than we all would have hoped a lot of the time, considering the additions they made. But I mean, they'll get better as the season goes on. And they have two really good guys at the bookends in Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. I know a lot of people like to talk bad about Jadeveon Clowney because he doesn't hit home a lot and he hasn't exactly lived up to his draft status, but he's still a capable player and he made a lot of tackles in the backfield today. And I mean, you have to be happy after what we saw in the Super Bowl.
Don't sleep on Malik Jackson either. That dude was eating. I mean, he was putting some pressure on Humphrey and those guys too. So, can you get copyrighted for the tomahawk chop?
No idea.
I don't know. I have no clue.
Well, here you go.
Wow. Dude, that you could see it on TV. Just the atmosphere was electric. Like electric atmosphere. And honestly, I was watching that play with my dad, and when the punter fumbled the ball, he's like, "Oh my gosh, they were trying the fake." I was like, "Nah, he just straight up dropped it." Like
I'm pretty sure the concrete was shaking when he dropped that ball.
Oh my gosh. Like that game it was so good to have. Because like, when was the last time we had 70,000 fans there? Over a year?
I'm telling you, man, the swing from the Browns fans to the Chiefs fans was noticeable. There was like dog bones being swung around and they're like, hoo, 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 and everybody's like, damn it. And then like it just switches and like the tomahawk chop comes out and it's like you could feel it just switching. Because like I was telling Darcy, we had probably like 16 Browns fans surrounding us. Like we just got that section and they started sitting down towards the end and all of us were standing the whole time. It was
I'm not
crazy.
gonna lie. I feel like that Mahomes, and you could attest to this, I feel like that Mahomes touchdown brought the house down. Like that was
which one?
Incredible. The crossbody falling out of bounds pressure.
That reminded me of the 4th and 9 against the Ravens.
I was just about to say that. Like,
I don't know if they showed it on TV, but Travis Kelce, after that second touchdown, came out probably about 10 yards onto the field.
And just like hyping people up.
And ran the whole entire home like bench on the end, and it just started going. And then Chris Jones the whole time is out there just getting the crowd like it. He got it. Those two guys got it going pretty good, and yeah, it was noticeably loud. Like pretty cool stuff, man.
Yeah, and it most certainly played a factor. Like, you can't tell me Baker Mayfield is like, I can't hear anything. Like he's trying to get the signal from his coach and probably trying to tell his center and his receivers what to do. And it's just like, you just hear, like, it's just a roar. Like you can hear it on TV. I can only imagine what it would have been like in person.
Yeah, I mean, it was so hyped going into the offensive drive. Like Mahomes is like telling everybody like, calm down. Like we got to be able to call, our stuff, like chill. Because, one time the chop just kept going, and our guys, I think we actually ran it down as the tomahawk chop was still going, and you could see Mahomes like trying to tell everybody, just, hey man, we're trying to run the offense now.
That's so crazy. That's wild. So, going into our next game, we play the Ravens actually next week, and we're not going to preview that game too much right now because we're still kind of breaking down this game. But how do you think that the way the Chiefs played today will have us stand up against the Ravens next week? Because, the Ravens kind of had some injury problems with their running backs recently. They don't really have anybody else. Maybe it's the Le'Veon Bell revenge game. I'm not too sure. But, like, how do you think the way the Chiefs play today will translate against the Ravens? Why don't we go Josh first?
I think they'll have a lot easier time defending the run against the Ravens because their O-line's not nearly as good as Cleveland's, and their running back room is obviously depleted. Like, I think they recovered well by making the signings of Latavius Murray and Le'Veon Bell, but I mean, they're no Gus Edwards, they're no J.K. Dobbins, so I think they'll have a lot easier time. And then Tyrann Mathieu coming back, obviously, because his impact cannot be understated. As we saw today, him coming back will be huge for the secondary. And they're still dealing with injuries with the receivers. Rashad Bateman will still be on IR, I believe. And Samuel Watkins, from what I remember, is I think he played, or he's going to play in the game, but I think he's still dealing with a hamstring from camp. So you got that to worry about. And then Marcus Peters went down. I mean, that's a hit to their secondary. I think Mahomes and the offense will have no problem against the Ravens. The Ravens defense, they got some dudes, but they don't scare me all too much, especially when you look at last year's matchup and how that went.
And they lost two of their linebackers in Judon and Ngakwe. So their pass rush isn't going to be as good.
Yeah, well, and they signed Justin Houston late, but to me, swapping Judon for Justin Houston is a wash, really. And they lost one of their linebackers, LJ Fort. So
okay. So Lucas, give me your take.
I think it's going to be. I think to start out, I think the Cleveland Browns put a lot of people on notice today. And I think the number one team that they put on notice.
Yeah, they're a good team. Sorry to cut you off, Lucas, but we have to remember they are a really good team, really talented, and
without OBJ.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they put the Ravens on notice, and my thing is we're going into their house, and so I think that and I do think that they have a lot of injuries and a lot of question marks, and they probably should be checking their field surfaces because all their guys are blowing knees out. But, it's going to be interesting to see because we did struggle a little bit against the run, and we know that's like Lamar's go-to. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates into, can they stop him, and does that open their offense, and with it being in their house and things like that. But I do think that if we can do a little bit better on the offensive side, I think that this could have a chance to be a blowout, honestly, by the Chiefs.
Do we know if we're getting Frank Clark back?
No, but
is it a hamstring?
Yeah, it's a hamstring, and he was out on the field in warm-up, so I feel like he's really close. So I'd imagine they get him back for this next game.
See, and I know for those of you that are watching, and shout out to the 70 people that are watching, I really do appreciate it. And I would encourage you guys to go sub up Lucas, who hosts the Beat of KC, and Josh Fan's YouTube channel as well. But honestly, I feel like Frank Clark, and I'm not as big of a Frank Clark hater as Josh. I don't think Frank Clark changes the outcome of this game. I find it hard to believe that Frank Clark is this difference make. Like, maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. Frank Clark has got to show his worth, but I don't see him as a guy that, he's a huge loss. I mean, maybe
he's not.
I'm going to take the opposite on this one. And I mean, you guys know usually how I am, but I think Chris gets doubled less, and that's another body that rotates in on a very humid and hot day. And I'm not saying that Frank Clark was going to have 2 sacks or 5 sacks or anything, but I think what he does is eliminates, because I think there was a couple times where Reed was even getting doubled. And I think what he does is he just spreads it out a little bit more. And I think that is what was needed. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that he's everybody says he's a leader, and maybe so. I don't see it personally, but I do think that today it might have played a little bit of a factor if he would have played.
I just think his impact is minimal, to be honest. And when you talk about the whole double team thing, I would love for that to be true. And having Frank Clark means double teams come off Jones. But if you look at the chart last year from Seth Walder, Tano Passanio got double teamed more than Frank Clark. And to me, that shows how much other teams take him seriously in the pass rush game. And look, Frank Clark, decent run defender, but we're talking about a guy who makes $20 million a year, though, for being a decent run defender. And how much does the run defense matter when the teams consistently run to the other side for 6, 7, 8 yards every time, and our run defense is still ranked 25th in the league?
But
I just feel like
if you look at today's, though, the reason why I say that is because I would have taken that because they ran away from Chris Jones a lot.
And we haven't seen what the run defense looks like when you have Jones and Clark on the edges now. So I will be interested to see that. But overall, I mean, with Frank Clark, does the final score change at all? I don't know.
You know, and
I think the final score changes if you have Willie Gay in there. I think his sideline to sideline speed is worth more for stopping the run than what Frank Clark offers. You know, a defensive end's job is to contain on run plays like that, and maybe I'm just not seeing it, but I feel like he's not as good at containing and setting the edge as maybe we lead to believe.
Yeah, and I haven't charted Frank Clark snaps for a while, but from what I remember when I did the video I made like halfway through the offseason when I was talking about it, I saw him. He was overrated as a run defender to me. He got flattened by Mekhi Becton, the Jets rookie tackle in that Jets game, and there were a couple other times where I'm like, man, I'm just seeing it with Clark, man. And it felt like he wasn't getting 100% effort. And I don't know if it's like a health thing. I don't know if it's just effort. And I feel like it could be effort because when you look at his pass rush, his arsenal is really vanilla.
And maybe that kind of shows you that, like, when he does perform well, which historically has been, he performs well in the playoffs, whether you want to, I know Josh has like every rhyme or reason to be like, oh, this sack doesn't really mean this to this to this. But let's just say that he gets all of these sacks in the playoffs. I think it's because he's motivated in the playoffs. And it kind of sucks that he doesn't have that motivation to earn his money every single week. I would feel like a guy like Frank Clark would kind of have that attitude of I need to go out there and earn my money. But maybe that's just what he does. Maybe that's what he lacks. Maybe it's that I have to be in a big game or a playoff game for me to show my worth because I don't feel like it's important for me to show up otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Like Josh Briscoe said on your video that you did with Michael, anything that Frank Clark does that's a net positive would be a pleasant surprise at this point.
Yeah. Like what? Maybe 7 sacks this year. Maybe.
You take it if that's. I mean, if you were offered right now, if you could either roll the dice and see what Frank Clark does, maybe he has a breakout year, or Frank Clark gets 7 sacks. I'll take the 7 sacks.
Oh, give me the 7.
I don't know if he'll do better than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, on the other side, though, I said before the season started, I could see not Frank Clark. I could see Chris Jones getting 20-something sacks, and I still believe it. Like I could see
you got 2
Chris
today.
Jones.
That's a good start.
Yeah, like that's what you need.
I think and I just to recap, and I think I think he could have possibly had more today if Frank would have played.
Gotcha. I'm gonna put myself backstage real quick. I gotta plug something in. Why don't I ask you a question first? So,
okay,
what was the? Let's see. What can I say? We're getting close to wrapping up, but I know that there is something that I could ask. What is your biggest? No, I don't want to ask because I mean the same thing we could be said. The running game. Why don't I ask that? What were your thoughts on Clyde today? Because there's very mixed signals on that, and I'm gonna put myself backstage, but I'll be right back.
Lucas, you want to go first?
Yeah, I liked. I mean, I liked what we did. I think, my prediction was that he was going to have. I think I said 125 to 150 combined. Pass catching and running. I think that they really utilized him better the second half, and started opening up the field more with him. I was surprised a little bit that we didn't see as much of Jerick McKinnon.
Mm-hmm. I know. I was super disappointed we didn't see more, and I thought he would have helped the red zone offense that struggled today.
Yeah, so I was surprised on that, but I liked what we saw out of Clyde. I think for him, he had the ankle injury, came back and played the whole game, and my only thing was, and me and Darcy talked about it a little bit. Instead of running the trickery with like Mike Rimmers or doing some stuff, I think you build 2 types of confidence. If you're trying to pound the rock in with Clyde there on like the 5, you're putting, some confidence into the new offensive line by saying, hey, this is a goal line issue we've had before, and now we're running the ball into the end zone with Clyde. But it also shows Clyde can do it and like builds that confidence for him. So that's one thing that I wish we would have saw. But I was okay with the what we got from Clyde today for sure.
Honestly, I was disappointed. I'm going the other way. I just, now it'll probably get better as the season goes on. But given the whole revamped offensive line and Clyde having an offseason under his belt now, 3 yards a carry on 13, 14 carries. There were a lot of plays where they handed it off to Clyde at the line of scrimmage and it goes for like 1 or 2 yards. And it got to a point in the game where it's like they were running these plays with Clyde and it felt like they were just pushing the ball to Clyde and it wasn't working. And I'm like, running the ball is just a waste of a down at this point. It just wasn't successful enough for me.
Sorry to interrupt you really quickly. They ran on 2nd and 10, and I want to pull my hair out. Like it was the most Andy Reid predictable 2nd and 10. It's just a waste of a down. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it is a waste of a down. And I said that maybe I would change my mind if it was successful, but it wasn't successful today. And it just hasn't been successful with Clyde when they've been doing it. Yeah, I'm sure he's going down the timeline.
Yeah, he's going down the Twitter timeline.
Clyde is not a great running back. Yeah, I said it. There was one play where they opened up a perfect hole for him, and he just went the opposite way. And my friend was like, yeah, more like Clyde Edwards-Richardson, looking like Trent Richardson out there with that vision. I was disappointed with the rush game from Clyde, but I will admit that in the passing game, he proved to be a nice safety valve. He wasn't a huge factor in the passing game, but there were a few times he got some critical first downs and 3 receptions for 29 yards. I mean, I liked it. It was good to see, but rushing wise, I was disappointed.
I think he was a better receiver than he was a running back today.
Yeah.
And honestly, and that's why I want to see what Jerick McKinnon can do, because I almost have that feeling that Jerick McKinnon will be better in between the tackles. Maybe he's just shiftier. I don't know, but it's something about Clyde, and maybe it's just we haven't seen enough of a sample size yet. Well, I mean, no, we kind of have. We saw a full season last year. I mean, I guess I'll give him some time because of the offensive line getting revamped and like they're probably going to get better as a team. But it's just like, Clyde hasn't really like wowed me. Now, again, I'm not saying that he's a guy that has to be great, but we kind of drafted him to be better than what he is. And I kind of came into this Clyde tenure in Kansas City with this is a 4-year rental. That was my mindset. Maybe if he impressed,
5 year because they got the 5th year option on him, which I assume they'll pick up.
But I can't see it being any more than 5 years unless he just Like, what's the point in? I mean, I don't know what he would even cost on the market. It couldn't be that much. But I don't think that he's really been that dynamic, explosive back that coming out of LSU he was really advertised to be.
He just hasn't been it yet. And hopefully the new offensive line, like we've all said to this point, opens up more holes for him. But there were a couple holes today, and he just totally missed them. He didn't hit them. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? Because he was praised for his vision. And I'm just not seeing it so far. And like you said, Michael, he hasn't wowed me yet. And even going back to last season, he never really wowed me. He only had 3 games of 75 yards or more last year, and 2 of them were against the Bills and the Texans, 2 teams that were awful in run defense. And those were both games in which he had 25 plus carries. And I don't know. I would like him to be more efficient. We haven't seen a ton of efficient performances from him. And a lot of it was because, yes, last year the offensive line, horrible at run blocking. But when you spend a first-round pick on a running back, I kind of feel like they should be responsible for being able to overcome that a little bit. Like when you draft a running back in the first round, that's only as good as his offensive line. To me, it's kind of a waste of a pick.
See, and I'm not even going to lie. I wouldn't even be that upset if we just made Clyde into more of a hybrid back, into the sense that your main job is basically to catch the ball out of the backfield, and anything that you can do in the running game is an addition. And maybe we use Darrell and Jerick in more of a 2 running back committee sort of role. But at the same time, I said this in my postgame show. Clyde can be as good a receiver as he wants, but at the end of the day, we drafted him to get yards on the ground, and he hasn't done that. So, like, maybe the move would be to make him more of a receiver, somebody that could line up in the slot or at least catch footballs out of the backfield. And I think that's kind of his strength at this point. He's better at that than running the ball, it seems.
Yeah, and there was another thing that kind of concerns me is I feel like there's a bit of a lack of trust between him and Mahomes, because you ever play like football in the backyard with maybe like a little cousin or something like that? And of course, they're way smaller than your friend that you would play football with. So you kind of have to throw closer to the ground, and it's awkward because you want
Like
to put it to a place
down
where
almost,
you want to throw it to a place where a 4 or 5-year-old can catch it. I feel like Mahomes feels that way about Clyde, where it's kind of an uncomfortable throw for him that he'd rather just take off and run. And there was one play today, and Aaron and I were talking about it earlier on my broadcast, but Clyde was originally supposed to block, but instead he runs around and he's open. He's wide open. Pat could have hit him. And instead he takes off and runs and puts himself in danger by getting hit. It was one of the plays where Mahomes got hit, and everyone kind of held their breath for a second. And it's like, well, if he's that, uncomfortable passing to Clyde, it kind of makes me wonder if that logic applies, where it's like, it's such an uncomfortable throw for him, or he doesn't know if he's going to make it because Clyde is so much. And I mean, there's short guys in the league, so maybe I'm like overreacting to that, because there's a lot of short players in the league that quarterbacks got to throw to, but there seems to be a lack of trust there.
Are you talking about me? Are you talking about me, Cole, or are you talking about Clyde?
Clyde.
I know, I was just messing with you.
I'm not gonna lie, kind of disrespectful about the whole like, oh yeah, Clyde's like throwing to your baby cousin. Like, you got to make sure that it's lower. No, like I get what you're saying though, because he is a smaller target, but like,
yeah, well, because the thing is I always go back to it. The Miami game last year, he threw a pass to Clyde that was like that, and it ended up bouncing off his helmet and getting intercepted. And I feel like ever since then he's been like, God, where do I got to put it for this guy so he's able to catch it? And instead of thinking of that, he'd rather just throw it to someone else.
Yeah, dude, there was also a couple instances today where Demarcus Robinson,
oh God,
like, just didn't do the right
Why
thing.
Why is he still active over Dory's Fountain?
I don't know. And you guys are big on the Dory's Fountain train. I was kind of like, I don't know if he's going to get that playing time. But he should be getting it over to Marcus Robinson. Like, it's not even close at this point. Like, I don't get, and what he does on the football field is, let's put that by itself. How you can like not listen to your coaches and that just flies, I don't get. Like, if this was any other player in any other system, your stuff's going to be in a duffel bag outside of your locker, because you're not going to be there anymore. Like, I don't get how he gets away with this. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah. So do you guys have anything else to add or wrap it up with? Closing thoughts?
No. What about you, Lucas?
On just the entire thing?
Yeah, sure. The game. Thoughts, opinions. I don't know.
Again, I think that this was a tremendous first game for what we had and what we put out there. And I think it set the tone. I think if we would have lost, I think it would have been a much bigger tone setter. But I think this set a tone like, hey, we do have a lot of improvement. Even though we are coming off of 2 Super Bowls, we still have a lot to work on. There are some holes that we need to really learn and build on. And, to me, I think we pointed out a lot of things that stood out, but none of them were so significant that it's like become such a tremendous concern. And my final thought is, if you guys go back and recall, I did say that Ben Neiman was going to do some special things. And he
made a tackle that kept a player in bounds. It was pretty impressive, not gonna lie.
He did pretty good today. He stood out.
Pretty good's a stretch.
Well, my final thing is he when I say pretty good, it's because he had like those Dan Sorensen moments where, like a lot of the time Dan Sorensen would get scrutinized and blasted for like missing coverage or not being able to tackle or doing some things like that. But then, there's those plays where Dan Sorensen makes and you're like, okay, Dan, like, I see why you're on this team. Ben Neiman had a few of those today.
That's a good take.
Yeah. Well, one closing thought I do have, and some people might hate me for this one. Well, Browns fans, because I noticed there's a couple Browns fans in the chat and whatnot. But to me, the end of that game, if you're a Browns fan, to me, that's got to make you like really start to question Baker Mayfield, whether or not he's the guy, because this was the second time now, including the time the Chiefs played in the AFC divisional game, where they had a chance to drive down the field and win the game at the end. And he just couldn't do it. He had a chance to strong arm his team to a victory and will them to a victory. And today he throws an interception at the worst possible time. And yeah, he was also the reason the Browns were in the position that they were, in a position to win that game. But at the same time, he also kind of threw it away.
I mean, we also I'm not trying to, but we also have to continuously remember they did not have OBJ today. And this game would have been completely different if we didn't have the Honey Badger and OBJ is the one that's doing the deep routes. And
I would also argue that the way that the Browns were able to be in that game was because Baker Mayfield was clicking in the first half. Like, this dude was dishing dimes early on in the game.
Very good balls. Very good balls. That ball that he threw to Njoku, that was
one more closing thought. Charvarius Ward got absolutely worked today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. He did. All right. You have anything else, Lucas?
I'm good, man. I got to go get my voice back.
I appreciate you guys joining me. Lucas, where can the people find you?
You can find me at the Beat of KC. I do have to give Aaron Morrow, I think is how you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you, man, for putting that in the comments section. You guys can find me at the Beat of KC. The YouTube channel is the Beat of Kansas City, and Twitter handle is the Beat of KC. Instagram Beat of KC. So that's where you can find me at.
Josh, where can people find you?
Just Josh Fan on YouTube. Type it in on your search bar, and on Twitter you can follow me at JoshFan43, or you can follow me at ShowMeFB as for Show Me Football. But if you follow me on my personal, I recommend you mute me on game day.
Yeah, honestly, Josh's Twitter timeline is entertaining. It is very entertaining. As for me, you can find me on Twitter. That's at KC Sports Report. On Instagram, that's KC_Sports Report. For the 63 people that are watching right now, and I think at one point we actually got up to 75. So shout out to you guys. I really appreciate that. We're going to try to do these live streams every week after the game, time permitting, because next week it's a Monday Night Football game. Or is it a Sunday Night Football game?
I think Sunday night.
All right. Well, it's going to be a late night regardless, but maybe we can do that. But I really do appreciate both Lucas and Josh for hopping on with me. But subscribe to KC Sports Report if you haven't already. Go subscribe to Lucas Murphy at the Beat of KC. Go subscribe to Josh Fan. We also do the Kingdom Crew podcast. For those of you that don't know, YouTube channel for that is coming soon. But the Chiefs won this game against the Cleveland Browns by a final score of 33-29. And they start off the 2021 season with a 1-0 record. So it's a great time to be a Chiefs fan, and we will see you this Thursday night with the Chiefs-Ravens preview. So with that being said, guys, have a great rest of your Sunday night.